The Event brand has quickly taken over the recreational e-bike realm. It's probably the most prominent name out there, but it mainly produces recreational bikes. So when I hear from these people that like the Event Avenger is a good mountain bike, as somebody who actually rides e-mountain bikes and on a fairly high level, I don't know if I can believe that just looking at it. It looks like it brings a lot to the table, but when you put that thing on a trail, we'll find out. I've put in other recreational e-bikes who claim to have mountain bike-like suspension and componentry, and they don't fare well. So we're going to put the Event through those same paces and see what it actually does. I recently got an Avenger for my son, and he loves it. I tried it initially, and I thought it was very good for what it was, but I didn't write it off as anything more than a really nice recreational bike, possibly the best for its money, if we're being completely honest. It is very nice. But even with 4.0 fat tires with off-road tread, I wouldn't take that thing on a trail, normally. But you see these reviews for people kind of upselling it to be this complete crossover off-road / recreational street bike, the ultimate kind of bike. And I don't know if those people actually mountain bike at all, or even know what it is to actually go on a trail on a true mountain bike. But a true mountain bike, you can't tell the difference between it and a regular mountain bike, other than that you just feel superhuman on it. It specifically has to deal with the motor and how, when you pedal, how the motor reacts to the pedaling. They're also center drive motors, so the power is all on the cranks, and it corresponds exactly to how you pedal in your cadence. And that is not generally present in a rear hub motor. And the rear hub motor doesn't react to your pedal until after a few pedals, and then once it gets a few pedals in, it senses you're pedaling, then it completely kind of just takes over and hijacks all the power. Essentially, most recreational e-bikes are actual mopeds. The term moped, motorized pedal bike, they're actual moped, not the standard gas mopeds of today, which are honestly like a scooter, a motorcycle. But most e-bikes are born-again electric mopeds. An e-mountain bike is not a moped. Doesn't act anything like a moped. Also, componentry taken into factor. Most of the recreational e-bikes have very, not even entry-level componentry. Most recreational e-bikes that mimic a mountain bike style frame and suspension have sub-entry-level components, meaning their drivetrain not only lacks the capacity to really go up really steep and rugged terrain, but it's also just very fragile, and after one hard ride you might actually just break it or make it go out of tune so badly you'd have to replace it. They're just not meant to take immense punishment. But on an actual standard e-mountain bike, the componentry on there is at the very least entry level and able to take pretty fair amounts of punishment, going over rocks, rugged terrain, jumps, drop-offs, rough terrain at really high speeds. And looking at the Aventon's drivetrain, just at first glance, I mean, it's a basic drivetrain just like the rest of them. I don't know if the Avenger has either a 7 or 8 speed drivetrain, but the standard drivetrain now in today's e-mountain bikes is 12 speeds on a single chain ring, or before it was 9 speeds with 3 chain rings in the front to offset. And that allowed you to get into really high climbing gears to climb steep hills. And even with the motor assist, I don't think that on a really steep hill with a lot of rolling resistance from actual dirt and rocks that the Aventon will do well on the climb. It's also the fact that the Aventon has just a single suspension fork with not a whole lot of travel or adjustment. It's got compression adjustment, but it has no rebound adjustment. So you're really relying on those 4.0 fat tires to soak up most of the turbulence. And just relying on your tires to soak up most of the turbulence from the terrain is not a great strategy. Things on the Aventon's side that make me think it might do well is that when you get on top of it, it actually feels like a pretty good bike. In terms of bar spacing, I mean, it comes with a riser bar that is fairly wide on a lot of these e-bikes. Those bars are super tight in, and that's really bad for actual mobility, trying to weave through loopy terrain. It also has modes in it comparable to other e-mountain bikes. Eco, Tour, Sport, and Turbo. Those are actually common modes in an actual e-mountain bike in terms of going up or down in power. And the cadence, at least on the street, reacts very strong to your pedal. So when you do one pedal, the motor reacts. You do another pedal, the motor reacts. I don't know how natural that's going to feel on the actual trail, but I'll tell you that is the most similar to an actual standard e-mountain bike in terms of the cadence. So it does have some things going for it. It's really a matter of how well those tires and the suspension and the drivetrain can handle rough terrain, and how well you can move that thing in swervy terrain versus having to run off the course because you can't actually make the turn tight enough. How well it's actually going to climb a hill with only 7 or 8 speeds, and the lowest gear being still fairly high for what's considered mountain bike standard. We're going to go ahead and take it out on a dirt course and give you our analysis.
riser bars that are fairly farther apart, far enough apart to like you can actually feel like you can turn with it. The pedaling is a little bit more responsive, although not perfect. It definitely feels way more capable. Oh, until you feel that hardtail. Much more natural feeling. It's pretty freaking good. I'm impressed. Very responsive to pedals. Still, kind of takes the whole thing away. That's all right. In terms of hardtails, okay, it's looking a little treacherous. I don't know if I can really go over all that. Yeah, I think it's going to struggle up this. Still not an actual e-mountain bike by any means, but very, very capable bike.
I will admit, I was impressed. I did think that it would do better than all the other ones I tried on trails like these, simply just because it was more like an actual mountain bike. The frame, the geometry, the handlebar setup, it was more like that. And then the drivetrain was pretty usable. It was a very shallow drivetrain with not a really deep climbing gear, but again, it has like full power e-motor in the hub. And despite it being in the hub versus the center drive, it didn't really feel all that unnatural when you were pedaling. The motor was very loud, but soon after you're riding all this stuff, you don't have time to pay attention to the sound of the motor. The cranks and pedals are high enough off the ground, so you miss most of the stuff while pedaling. I kind of caught it right there, but that was the only time that I had clipped a pedal on a rock. But other than that, I didn't have any clearance issues. There were clearance issues on other e-bikes, and because of that, I just ended up using the throttle most of the time, which isn't really fun. Then you're kind of just really motorcycling it out here, and that's a lot of reason why they don't want class 2 and 3 e-bikes on trails like this. I opened it up once on the throttle just to see what it was like. It did actually track very well. I think the bigger, larger tires, they really help in terms of rolling resistance over terrain. They're 26-inch wheels, but because the fat tire is so thick and wide, like it operates like a 29er, and the 29ers have the best rolling resistance over terrain. The tires were a blessing and a curse. For one, they're a dead giveaway that I'm probably not supposed to be on this trail. So some skinnier tires would be good. I have some like some 2.5 or 2.7 tires I could have got away with. I also would have had significantly less rolling resistance. And so though the 4.0 tires are really nice in terms of grip, side grip, like when you're leaning the bike in like that, or just overall cushioning, they really do drag. There's a lot more rolling resistance the thicker the tire is. You'll never be able to tell that on the street really, because the street is perfectly flat and smooth. But once your tire starts to dig into the actual gravel to catch traction and grip, and then there's a lot more tire digging into the dirt, you start to really feel it and notice it. The Atlas derailleur did take it pretty well. I didn't really notice a whole lot of chain slop, so the drivetrain was tuned pretty good on this thing. I didn't notice any skipping on the gears, and then when I had to pedal uphill, you obviously couldn't just power through the motor. You actually needed to switch gears in the drivetrain, but it was enough of a low gear for me to get up that hill and then kind of just coast down. The bigger thing was, for a few moments in that ride, I actually forgot that it was an e-moped, pretty much. It actually did feel like a mountain bike when I was pedaling it, when I was trying to just be technical through some of those little short turns and use the shifters and move through it all. Even on this climb, though, when I knocked into the lowest gear to get up the hill, yeah, didn't feel terribly unnatural. It was a really good feeling bike, and for the money, I mean, there's a lot worse ones out there that are a lot more expensive. I don't know why anybody would try to pass this one up unless it's just you need like a foldable e-bike or a smaller one for some reason. This thing is friggin' awesome. It's like the best recreational e-bike I've personally ever ridden. I have not seen one better. For the money, at least. But that being said, my actual e-mountain bike would still smoke this thing and leave it in the dust. Thank you guys. Talk to you later.